me, see me, I be rolling solo. No squad, no clicks, just solo.
Alright, what's going on YouTube? This is Nima T on the beat. Today I'm going to show you guys how I made my Persian Trap song solo. Now what I'm about to tell you guys, you can use these tips and tricks and use it on your own samples. It doesn't have to be a Persian song, but since I'm Iranian and this is what I do, I like to do Persian Trap songs. Find old Persian songs and chop them up, make them trap, you know what I'm saying? So this song solo that I made, what I always like to do is a lot of people when they make sample beats, they alter the sound, either the pitch or the speed, slow it down, speed it up. But what I always like to do is like start off with the sample itself and then it drops into what I created, so people like kind of flip out when they do that, when I do that. So this song is a sample that I took. It sounds like this. Now this part is from the actual song. Like I said, I had it for my intro, and what it gonna end up happening, drop to what I created. As you can see, I chopped those parts up and I played it in my own way, and I sped it up a little bit. So what you want to do is when you make these samples, you want to open up SliceX. And you basically, what you do, you go to Edison, and let me pull up Edison here, and you go in the song and you find a part of the song that you want to loop, and you always want to make sure it typically works best if you have a full, like a full bar loop. That way it's like, you know, it's not like a 3-bar, it's not abrupt, it has a beginning and an end, and then you could chop that up. Or you could just play around and just find, like, let's say, just a small segment and just use that to make the beat and go on from there. And after that, what you do, you want to use this tool and you just drag this into SliceX, which is the plugin that comes with Fruity Loops. And as you can see, it brings up these markers I put in myself. But what you want to do is basically break down these sample into chops, what I call it, and you use this marker right here that says add marker, this plus sign right there, and you basically make your own chops, and then you could play it in your own way, which you know, which is really fun to me. Now some people, what they do, you could actually go in Edison and count the bar and actually chop it like this, just basically grab a whole segment that you like to use, drag that into your timeline like this, and then make the beat on top of that. But which is possible, which in another video I'm going to show you guys how I make a beat like that. But for this one, I dropped it into SliceX and I actually played the loop, which sounds like, going on from there, the beat, let's see. So you always want to, when you make these tutorials or when you make these beats, you always want to make sure you have an outline kind of in your head, how you're gonna go about it, from the intro to the hook to the verse. Like this, what you hear right now is the verse. This kind of has this like delayed hi-hats with the 808, and then what I always like to do is I don't like to use the sample all throughout the beat. So in this part right here, what you're hearing right now, that's something that I played myself, and then it comes the hook. So this part right here, let me see, okay, it's not this one. Let's see. This part right here, yep. Now this part, I added in myself. You see, it's something as 4 notes or 5 notes, it can make a whole difference, because you don't want to play the loop all the way. It kind of gets repetitive and redundant unless you modify with automations, and which you can do, like, you could put a fruity free filter, and then what you do, you automate that filter, and on your timeline right here, you could automate your time filter right there, and kind of doesn't make the loop too repetitive. So right here, the drums is what makes the sample really tight. So if you listen to it without the drums, if you just listen to the drums itself, you see it already has like a modern trap sound to it. Now, add in the sample, there you go. Let's see what else I do. Now, bear with me. Yeah, so you can see on my project line, I have it mapped out. That's the hook right there from here to here. I have it colorized so that way it's easier for me to draw them out. And you always want to listen to the sample. Like the sample, I use congos right here. You hear that? You want to add sounds that are matching to the sample. You don't want to use something that's like crazy, plug-in with like a different modern sound. Because I try to stay with the uniqueness of this being like an older sound. And like that little sound right there you hear, that's like sped up, and I play the key sped up. So a lot of people think you have to have all these fancy plugins to make a really dope beat, but with samples, what's really fun about them, the sound is already there. You just have to align it to the way you want. Like I could play these keys however I want. You know what I mean? So you can make a completely new beat out of sample. But what I like to do is always hit them with the intro from the actual sample itself, and then it transitions to what I have made, which kind of flips people out. It's like, oh, okay, cool. That was like a cool switch up right there. Now, if you listen to like Kanye West beats and hit the way he samples, he starts off the sample but already being altered sound, and it goes from there. So on these samples, it's best to you pick a sample that has only like one instrument. You don't want like too many instruments, because sometimes they'll clash, or vocals for that matter, because sometimes when people record vocals on the songs, they're not always in line with the beat, if you understand what I'm saying. So if a beat starts out with like a string sound and they kind of delay coming in with the vocals, when you're trying to chop that sample, it's not going to be even, and it's going to sound all out of tune. Now, another way you could always stretch these samples to fit your tempo right here. So this tempo is 130, so this needs to be exactly like, even bars. So if you put your sample and it's like stretched to like 9 bars, you need to use this time tool and actually match it with the 8 bars to make it even. And another way, an old school way of doing this, is getting this blade tool and cutting these samples and just moving it. But I'd rather just throw it in SliceX and use the piano roll to actually see the sample itself. And my computer is freaking out. And actually use these markers and guidelines to make my sample. Okay, let me see. Also, the way you mix the beat is super important. You don't want the sample all in your face. Sometimes on this sample, let's see if I did a crazy EQ. See, I put a little delay and I EQ the beat. Usually I take off some bass, these lower frequencies, so that way my 808s will stand out in the beat. And I boosted the mid highs a little bit for the sample. See if I could play it without it. Let me see. Bear with me, y'all. Okay. See? Now these are subtle changes that you don't really hear until you put it all into the mix. But once you add it, you see how it adds more presence with that EQ, the way I EQ'd it. And I usually add a little bit delay to give it that stereo feeling, like, you know, it's not so dry. And on the drums, always on the 808s. On this 808, I didn't do anything particular, but what you can do is you can put a distortion. See, this 808 already has like a good distortion sound to it, but if you wanted to stand out even more, I like to use this distortion right here, Fruity Fastest, which comes with Fruity Loops, and you could play around with it. That way, it kind of gives your 808s this fuzzy sound that will sound good on smaller speakers like PC laptops or like headphones. You know, like the iPhone headphones that people listen to with their iPods and stuff. But this some of the 808s I use already has that sound, so you don't want to do too much, overdo it. And let me see if there's a certain way I mix everything else. The hi-hats, I didn't do anything. It helps a lot using sounds that already are processed. So you could buy, if you don't have money to buy like plug sounds, like high HD sounds, what you can do is download free ones. There's a ton of them out there. You just have to EQ them and do all this, add distortion yourself. Or you could just put, you know, 50-60 bucks, invest in yourself, buy some good sound kits that are already processed. You just use them. Basically, you just level it out. From there on, it becomes easy. And you see these little, I call these little exciters that I have on the beat. Like this stuff kind of like for artists when it's rapping, it kind of helps them to know, okay, this beat transition from the hook to the verse or vice versa, you know. It helps them a lot. Because I know a lot of times I'll make a beat for a producer or for an artist, and they don't know where the verse or the hook comes in. So these exciters, as I like to call them, kind of tells them, okay, that's the hook. You want to help the artist out because, you know, what you do, you could play around with the sample after you play them, and you could just take it out right there and just have that cool little drop. So the possibilities are endless. You just have to kind of have an outline on your head, how you're going to lay it out, how you're going to structure the beat. Alright, well, that was this tutorial. You could watch the whole video if you like to see what I did with the song solo on YouTube. The video is out, produced and recorded, mixed and mastered by myself. And also another thing, when you want to mix your beats, I forgot to mention, also do recording. You want to give it at least a little bit, at least 3 decibels of headroom. So you don't want the beat to hit at a peak of 0. What I like to do is always be -3. That way when you're recording or you're selling the beat to an artist or whatever for him to record, that way whenever he records his vocals, he has some room. The beat is not, the vocals are not fighting with the beat, you know. That way when you master it, it's gonna sound really good and when you bring it all out. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and like I said, subscribe, and I'm gonna do more now that I got my setup. I'm gonna do more tutorials and give you guys tips and tricks of how I make my beats. You could make it 1,000 ways, but this is just the way I do it. So subscribe and comment. Tell me what you liked and what you didn't like, and I'll try to correct it. Peace out. Nima T on the beat.
See me, I be rolling solo. No squad, no clicks, just solo. You were not a friend, you were just a foe. I don't gotta prove it, I just know.